That article indicating that Sheriff Bill Decker might resign shocked and rocked the courthouse this afternoon as the word got out. Sheriff's deputies and friends, close friends of the sheriff, were absolutely shocked at the information, saying that nothing like this could ever happen, and particularly through the media of the press, because Sheriff Decker just doesn't operate that way. There were many implications in the article, and Judge Lou Sterrett was part of that. Now, Judge Sterrett has been on vacation, has just returned in town this evening. I'm here at Judge Sterrett's home and going to ask him some questions about that article. Judge, it was said in there that you cut your vacation short to come back to present some recommendations to the Commissioner's Court. Is this true?
Well, first, Carl, it would be very improper for me to make any suggestions to the Commissioner's Court concerning Decker's plans to resign or to resign. That comes strictly under the head of Decker's business. When I left here from Atlanta, Georgia, I knew that Decker was a pretty sick man, and I talked to him daily. Even the 2 days that he was so sick, I talked to him. Also talked to his doctor and talked to his wife. I picked up some rumors when I'd called my office that there's some talk of Decker resigning. Of course, this is to be expected. Under the conditions, a lot of people are pretty ambitious and would like to be sheriff. But Decker has told me that he has no immediate plans of resigning.
So far, we have come up with absolutely nothing to confirm that article. I've talked with several of Sheriff Decker's close friends, and they say he's feeling very well and should be back behind his desk sometime next week. This is Carl Mayo, Channel 8 News.
Mr. Erwin has something to do with almost everything that happens at the University of Texas, at Austin, or anywhere else.
Dr. Silber, some of the other members of the faculty have said they are going to resign as a result of this action taken against you. What do you think about that?
I hope that will not be the case. I made a statement to the newspapers and to the television stations in Austin yesterday saying that I had learned through letters and through phone messages that some members of our faculty were planning to resign, and I urged all individuals who had said this to me or who had written to this effect to change their minds. Unfortunately, for the University of Texas, the faculty are not playing games. We have received already 3 resignations in writing to my knowledge, and I'm very much afraid that more will come.
Would you class yourself as a militant?
Very definitely not as a militant. I think I classify myself as a conservative. I don't believe in campus unrest. I don't believe in demonstrations that are disruptive. I think that there are institutions of law, and due process of law should be observed.
What is your major complaint in the rise in the valuation?
Well, my major complaint is that people around here just can't pay that sort of a tax. There's not another district around here that taxes the land like the Hurst-Euless-Bedford School District.
Can you give any reason for it?
Well, I don't know of any reason except maybe the school board and the tax collector is trying to get us to sell our land.
Is this going to mean a higher sales tax?
It very possibly could mean an increase in the sales tax.
Would you vote for an increase?
No. No, I voted, I would not be for an increase in the sales tax. I think that, first off, a sales tax increase, the 3/4 that I think we could reasonably go up, would fall short of the money that we need.
Although the legislators agree there's going to be a big budget deficit in the next biennium, not to mention the current biennium, but the question of where the money will come from, that's the one that's unanswered. Will it be an increase in your state sales tax, or will there be a corporate or even a personal income tax? At least one state senator, who at this time has asked us not to use his name, has raised the question of constitutionality on this rob Peter to pay Paul theory, that is, transferring of funds from one agency to another in order to make up deficits. Specifically, he mentions a transfer of $13 million from the construction to the welfare fund. This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move at the state capitol.
Rabies is a neurogenic virus, which simply means it's a virus that attacks and destroys the central nervous system, the spinal cord, and the brain.
How does it get from animals to people?
Generally speaking, by bite only. There are other ways, but they're extremely rare, usually only by bite.
You almost have to get bitten by an animal in order to contract rabies yourself.
Yes, not only bitten, but a good deep bite. Rabies virus is hard to transmit, so it usually takes a bite deep into the flesh to transmit the disease.
How does it affect the animals who have rabies?
Well, at first there's no effect during the incubation period. Then the animal experiences a change in disposition. For instance, a normally lovable animal becomes not so lovable, or an animal that usually doesn't like people will try to sit in your lap, or something unusual. Then they will go through a phase which is usually called the furious rabies, which means they walk or run aimlessly and bite anything that moves. Then they get to the point that most people call dumb rabies, whereby the nerves of the face become paralyzed and the jaw hangs down and they salivate and they're incapable of anything except just breathing and living. And then a few hours after that they die. Invariably they die. "85 to 90% of our rabies is in wildlife, foxes, skunks, coyotes, that sort of thing. And each year, the disease is less and less in the limelight, and so the percentage of vaccinates goes down and down, and we have more and more strays to the point that we're very vulnerable. Then we have another outbreak, and we cycle all over again. In my view, we're just about ready to cycle again. I think we're about ready to have trouble.
That article in today's paper took everyone here at the Sheriff's Office by complete surprise, including Clarence Jones, Alan Sweat, and needless to say, Ed Cruz, who, according to that article, would be bounced. I spent all day here at the Sheriff's Office trying to verify that story. I've talked with numerous Sheriff's deputies and many of Sheriff Decker's close friends. According to Sheriff Decker's closest friends, the sheriff is feeling well and should be back behind his desk sometime next week. This morning, the sheriff was feeling very well and in good spirits. It is the feeling of all of Sheriff Decker's deputies and good friends that he would never handle his business through the news media, and that if any changes were to be made, he would make them personally. In short, I have found no way to substantiate this story. Carl Mayo, Channel 8 News.
Well, I think it was forced from a necessity of failing to plan ahead. Actually, from a technical standpoint, I think this can be questioned whether it's constitutional authority to transfer $13.5 million, but you've got to do it when you get in a bind, or that, on the other hand, have a special session.
Some sources say that we may need as much as $600 million for the next biennium in new tax money. What is your solution to this?
Well, I talked about finances, our crisis in the 70s. First of all, I want to have the short-term approach to the problem and then a long-term. The short-term is, instead of saying let's have more taxes and just accept this, we try to do some short-term planning on seeing what we can do to avoid more taxes, and this is why I favor the Economy Commission. It's been favored by Democrats, Governor Connolly, for many years. I want to do this. Secondly, to do some reforming in our method of making our budget. We now have a joint conference committee where they get in the back room and put new items in the budget, have never been discussed by the House or the Senate. This is wrong.
Well, I would hope that we haven't lost any friends over this, because I would think that anyone who has children in the Dallas Independent School District would want the best possible teachers and would be willing to pay for these quality teachers.
Mr. Hardesty, what is your mother's complaint concerning the valuation of her property?
Well, about 3 years ago, they actually practically doubled the valuation out here, and then just recently, in the last 30 days, so they've actually run up about another 240% above that.
What was it valued at 3 years ago?
$36,000 on the 3 year ago valuation. Now it's up to about $87,500.
How much money per year does this mean in increased taxes?
Well, it was running in the neighborhood of approximately $700 a year, and now it's going to be up close to $1,600 a year. As we try to tell them, any appraiser or tax office doesn't really make the value. It's what people are selling the property for and what they're paying for it.
What has caused it to go up?
Well, of course, the regional airport taking 18,000 acres out of the area. You've got an area between two cities that are growing. There's only so much land. The McAtee properties are coming in with a Bedford farm, and Sears are coming in, and there's just a great demand for land in this area.
When the session begins in January, the legislature can pass an emergency appropriation to take care of the remainder of the fiscal year.
From where will they get this money?
Well, we will be able to appropriate from other funds or
shift from Peter to Paul.
That's about it. Our big problem, I think, comes from the fact that at this moment, we're looking at a need for some $530 million upward. And of course, during the session, there will be numerous requests for additional appropriations.
Excuse me, during the current biennium or for the next biennium?
Well, for the next biennium.
Some 500 to 600 million additional.
Oh, yes, and this looks like it's going to be the largest tax budget that's ever been passed in the history of Texas.
We fight a war, it completely clear-cut. In other words, the war is a foreign invader war from the north and the Vietcong itself.
In other words, you're not comparing it with what may be termed a civil war.
No, we are not we are not in civil war. We're not fighting the Cambodian. We're fighting the North Vietnamese and the Vietcong.
This is not a civil war. It's just Cambodia has been aggressed, has been invaded by foreign troops. And we are not fighting our own brother Cambodians, as the South Vietnamese are doing with the North Vietnamese. These are the war between the Cambodians and the Vietnamese communists, if I may add.